Welcome back to the Middle Eight Football Podcast, the fastest 8 minutes in sports. I am Joe Burks, your host. So excited to be here to break down the Thursday night matchup that happened last night between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we do, don't forget to follow the Middle Eight Podcast on all social media platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok, or obviously on YouTube as well, and Spotify. Man, what a win for this Giants team. That was one of the most exciting Thursday night games of the season. That's saying something. We've had a couple of really good ones. But, what a culture win for Brian Daboll and the New York Giants to bounce back from a turnover-heavy loss to the New Orleans Saints in Week 5. Jackson Dart looked really impressive, the rookie quarterback out of Ole Miss. 195 passing yards, 58 rushing yards, and 2 total touchdowns, no interceptions. On the first 2 drives especially, throwing for that touchdown, rushing for another, he looked just fantastic. The way to describe him, he looked like a veteran quarterback, slinging the ball around, stepping up on crucial third downs. They're not afraid to put the ball in his hands when it matters most, and having that trust from your coach after just a few starts is just very telling of how talented Dart is. He still has the whole rest of his rookie season ahead of him. I think there's a great chance of him getting better between now and the end of the season. Cam Scatterbo, obviously, everybody knows him, everybody loves him, unless you were playing against him in fantasy football last night. But Scatterbo is quite obviously the lead back for the New York Giants now. Even with Tyron Tracy Jr. back in the fold, their lead running back last year, Scatterbo took 19 carries for 98 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. What a performance. Averaged over 5 yards per carry. Looked fantastic on the ground. Just breaking those tackles, wearing down the defense like he does so well. And man, these rookies for New York, they play so hard. This entire team and the fan base has a new energized culture about them. It's so cool to see that happening in real time, and you could feel the energy in that stadium last night. It was such a great game. And also, just to highlight, what a battle between the Eagles' offensive line and the Giants' defensive line. The reps were going both ways, and it was really exciting to watch all night, especially that Brian Burns versus Jordan Mailata battle. That was super exciting. There were wins and losses on both sides. Brian Burns actually got 2 sacks on the night. In the end, the Giants forced 2 turnovers to really ice this game. It ended up 34-17 in the Giants' favor, obviously. One of those turnovers was a Cordell Flott interception off a throw that was behind Jahan Dotson from Jalen Hurts. Took it back almost to the house. And then we had that A.J. Dillon fumble at the end of the game, punched out by safety Dane Belton. This team, to me, feels a bit reminiscent of the 2024 Washington Commanders, and that may be recency bias, I'm not going to lie. There's a chance, but having that rookie quarterback that comes in and energizes an entire fan base that had been starved from recent success in the late 2010s and early 2020s, it just feels very similar to me. Just a couple interesting notes from the game. Brian Daboll, head coach for the Giants, was so visibly angry when Jackson Dart went into the medical tent to be checked for a concussion. The NFL is actually now reviewing the process to see if they did all the necessary steps to check him out for a concussion, if they rushed him back or not. But you could see Brian Daboll literally yelling at his staff to get Dart back in the game. It was hilarious. Speaking of Brian Daboll, I think he definitely earned himself some job security. He was absolutely on the hot seat before this game, but he's obviously on the same page with Jackson Dart, and this win over the defending Super Bowl champions is definitely going to earn him at least I think several more weeks in the head coaching position here. And along with that, I think general manager Joe Schoen has also found himself some job security. He was involved in that move to trade up and get Jackson Dart at the end of the first round. It has worked out beautifully for New York so far. But let's temper expectations overall. This is a very exciting team, and it's undeniable that this rebuild is off to a good start with some great young rookies. But the Giants coming into the year did have the hardest schedule in football, but this one over the Eagles did prove that they can beat anybody. So there's a chance we see the Giants in the playoffs come January. But obviously there's so much season left to go. There's a lot that can change. We don't want to overreact to anything, but this is an extremely exciting win. Moving on to the Eagles here, I think we all kind of became tush-push haters last night. That is, if you weren't already one of the haters of that play. But the Eagles in the second quarter attempted to, I believe, 4 times in a row. And on one of those, there was a clear false start from one of the offensive linemen. The NFL came out saying that they would call stuff like that, and they just didn't. So we're waiting to see some accountability on the NFL's part in terms of actually calling those penalties. I'm starting to wonder if they ever will. Seems like the Eagles can just get away with that. But again, we're seeing a trend. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. I've been saying this for weeks. The Eagles cannot play consistent half-to-half football, or at least they haven't shown the ability to do that very much this year at all. They'll be great in the first half and won't be able to score in the second half like they were in this game. They didn't score a single point in the second half. Or they'll be, atrocious in the first half and come back and win in the second half. This trend is extremely worrying. You have to play consistent football to win. Of course, they have been winning before this, but to win consistently and have sustained success, you have to be able to play consistent football half to half. The Eagles don't score in the second half. Like I said, this is the second week in a row they've been completely ineffective after the first two quarters. There were multiple times the offense just stalled out. We saw multiple 3-and-outs in the second half, which, it happens, but also turnovers on top of that. That is not a recipe to win football games. And it wasn't just the offense that worried me this time. It was the defense. The Eagles' cornerbacks outside of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were weaknesses I identified before the season began. Those were Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. Those players have not played up to standard through the first 6 weeks of the season. Keely Ringo especially had a rough game, some penalties on him. But I can't just shade the defense. It was a tough game for the offense. Jalen Hurts played not a bad game. He had some good plays, but also just some misses. It was a huge overthrow to Devonta Smith, who was pretty much wide open for a huge touchdown it would have been, but he completely overthrew him. He was wide open. And then the interception to Cordell Flott that kind of sealed the game, really. But the Eagles have now dropped 2 in a row. We'll see if they can respond. It's all about how you respond in this league. Overall, just a couple notes to end what we got here. This may be one of the most consequential games of the entire 2025 NFL season in terms of momentum. I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go for these two teams, but the momentum is clear. The Giants are on the rise. The Eagles are on the downward turn. But obviously, so many games left to be played. But also, Thursday Night Football has been great so far. I'll be the one to say it. We've had some fantastic games. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to follow the podcast on all social media as well as on YouTube. I'll see you in the next one.